Evening, guys. Hi there. Nice to see you all on a very cold winter's evening. Not sure if anybody else is going to join us, but we can see in a second. But let's just get started in the meantime so that we don't lose any time. Okay, so where's my calendar? This time next week, you guys will be working on your tasks. I always want to call them assignments. I still haven't got used to calling them tasks yet. You'll be working on your task 1, getting ready to hand it in. So just to remind you guys, the way that the task will work is you'll see on your PAS the due date is the 21st of August. Which means that it must be handed in, what shouldn't say by, before midnight on the 21st of August. So if all things IT related go according to plan, the actual task document, question paper, should be available for you to download just after midnight on the 20th. So in other words, the Tuesday midnight, Tuesday the 20th midnight, that is when, as soon as midnight clicks over, the task should be available for you to download. So it's a bit of strange timing. I'm not sure why they do it like that, because nobody wants to sit up all night waiting for midnight to get hold of the question paper. But and it also depends on what sort of time you've got. If you guys are working, then you'll work on it when you come home from work on the 21st. Otherwise, when you wake up on the 21st, go and download it, and then you can spend the day of the 21st working on it. And you've got until midnight on the 21st to upload it. So officially, the due date or time is 23:59. So the task must be uploaded before that. Yes, I reckon exactly. It's exactly the same thing like a take-home exam. So instead of making what they're doing, instead of like with the assignments where you had the assignment document available right from the start of the semester, they've now limited the time available where you can actually view the questions and work on the assignment. It's just to make it a little bit fairer for those students that have to do sit-down exams and tests, and also to bring you more in line with the full-time students, because the full-time students do 2 sit-down tests, closed book tests, and then the exam. So now you will be doing 2 time-limited tasks and the sit-down exam. So it brings the assessment method kind of more in line with full-time. Okay. So also just want to remind you guys, if on the 21st early in the morning you go and try and download the assignment and it's not there, you can email me to let me know, but there won't be anything I can do about it, because that's going to be a back office IT problem. So the moment that you realize there's some kind of a technical problem, if fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but if it so happens, then won't you please immediately log a ticket with your VC Assist stating that your paper is supposed to be there and you can't download it or you can't open it or whatever the problem happens to be. Okay, because I will only see messages later in the morning on that Wednesday. I might not see messages in time, and then again, I don't have a direct line to IT people, etc. There, the best way to make sure that the query goes to the people who can sort the problem out quickest is by logging a ticket. The other thing also with logging a ticket is if there is something wrong, we've got a record of the issue being reported straight away, which means that if there is any issue and they need to give you extra time, there's proof for that. That did happen once, and the students were given extra time because there was an issue with the availability of the task. But let's hope that's not going to happen. It only happened once right at the beginning. So it looks like all of that stuff has been ironed out now, and that doesn't happen anymore. Okay, so that's really all you've got to remember from a sort of protocol point of view. All right. Also, I won't be able to answer any questions related to the content of the task on that day while you guys are busy with it. You have to work on it on your own as if it was a closed book test. Also, again, just to make it fair, if you think that there is an error or a mistake or that type of a problem, then again, log a ticket, and then you can also email me, and hopefully I'll see it in time and I'll be able to tell you if it is an actual problem or if it's not a problem, and you can go ahead and work on the paper. But I won't be able to answer any questions about the content of the test or to give you any assistance like we used to be able to with the assignment as well. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go and share my screen now. And where's Christopher? I see Christopher is online tonight. Christopher, I did go and check, and the assignment that you'll be doing now in semester 2 is different to the assignment in the first semester. So it'll be similar because you're doing the same learning units, but it's the identical test. So I am actually going to use the first semester's task to go over and just to show everybody what the task looks like and the format, and we'll have a look at the questions that the students did last time as well, so you can get an idea of what type of questions they can ask you, and we can do a little bit of revision in that way. So also regarding revision, I want to remind you guys that you've got the link to the YouTube channel. It's in more resources. So also go to more resources and use the link that will take you to the full channel playlist for FINM7321. And then go and browse through those YouTube videos that are there. Look for videos that reference assignment 1 or test 1 or task 1. They will all cover the learning units that you have to do for this task. So you should be able to find a good few videos that will cover these various questions and stuff that will cover these learning units as well. So that's the beauty of the YouTube channel, is that over time we build up like a library of videos that will cover the various content sections that you guys are covering. So remember also, you just have to do learning unit 1 and learning unit 2 for this particular task. So that's what you are looking for there. Okay, let me just go and share my screen. I've been working on Teams all day today, and that's just slightly different to Blackboard. Anybody got any questions before I put the other task up on the screen and we start looking at it? Anything else anybody wants to know? Anything related to the task? Okay, and remember, you have still got a whole week before your task is due. So as you are revising and going through those 2 learning units over this next week, please send me a message or an email if you've got any queries, and I'll be able to answer them for you, hopefully, and help you with any of the revision that you're doing while you're working through that. Okay. That's the whole point of having a tutor, is that you can contact us at any time and we're available to help you. All right, so let me go and put that paper up on the screen. So as I said, this that you're looking at now is, this was the first time that we actually did a task. So this was task 1. and this was in semester 1 of this year. So your paper will look very similar to this when you download it. So it is 100 marks, and you'll see here they've put total hours is 24 hours because that's the length of time that you're going to have access to the paper before you've got to upload your answer. Also regarding uploading your answers, you can work in Word, type your answers in Word, but when you upload it, it must please be converted to a PDF or exported to a PDF, and you must upload a PDF file for me to mark. Okay, so don't upload a Word file, I want a PDF file. You can also hand write out your answer on foolscap paper if that's the way you prefer to do it. Lots of students battle with typing numeracy questions. That's absolutely fine. Just make sure that your handwriting, you're using a really nice legible fine liner, for instance, or a black pen that's very clear, so that when you scan your pages in, your handwriting is very clear and very legible, and there's not going to be a problem with me reading what you've written. Always number your pages. Always make sure your pages are uploaded in the correct order, and they must always be uploaded as one combined PDF document. So you will have to do your academic honesty declaration. So on the assignment that you download, this page academic honesty declaration is also on here, but you don't have to sign this particular page because you guys have to sign that electronic declaration before you will be allowed to download it. You've got to go on and accept that electronic academic honesty declaration. Okay, so this page, some of the students do fill it in and sign it just as a safeguard, but you will be doing the electronic version of that. Christopher says, are we no longer allowed to type it out? No, Chris, what I said was you can do either. So you can type it out in Word and then export it to PDF and upload the PDF. But for those students who want to write it out, okay, those students that want to handwrite it, you are allowed to handwrite it as well. Obviously, we prefer typed because it's much easier to read, but we do understand we've got all sorts of different students in the distance space, and not everybody is able to type it out. So we don't restrict that. So again, go to your learning objectives. You've got them at the beginning of each learning unit on Learn and in your module outline. And we went through these learning objectives when we started each learning unit that I went through with you. Because remember, these learning objectives, this is what they are going to test you. So again, they've shown you here, task 1, learning objectives. These are the things that you should be able to do and that they will then test us on. So in this particular paper, they just set the scene in the background, like a kind of like a case study type of a thing. Unemployment is a major concern for the economy, multiple streams of income, additional funds, etc. And then it says, read the case study below and answer the questions that follow. So task 1, time value of money and the role and environment of financial management. So time value of money is LU2 and the role and environment is your LU1. It's out of 100 marks. At the end of this specific task, so this is, why have they called it task 1? I thought that they had, okay, they've got it all in one question. If I would just have a quick look again. Yeah, it was split into 2 questions, but then they've chosen in the first task, these are the learning objectives that they're going to cover. And you'll recognize these from your list of learning objectives that you should already be familiar with. So then question 1 is going to be a time value of money and testing the time value of money concepts in the real world. And this was a 70-mark question. So 70 marks of the 100 marks was out of the second learning unit. And that's pretty typical because the second learning unit is much longer and it's much more dense with content and calculations, etc., than learning unit 1. So it probably will be weighted with more marks, the second learning unit. So again, this is just a bit of scene setting that we've got here. The government has recently launched graduate employment program, main aim of reducing youth unemployment, and they give us some stats. As a recent graduate, you were fortunate enough to get the opportunity to apply for a junior financial planner position. You've been successful and you've gone through 6-month intensive work readiness to complement your existing qualifications. One remaining challenge in the program, which requires you to prove your worth. There is an interactive role play whereby you have to pretend to be a financial planner, and you've been invited to a company and they are conducting a financial wellness workshop for all of their employees, including their employees in their financial department. So because their finance team are already well versed in the concepts of financial management, but the majority of their staff only have basic training in the understanding of financial concepts. Even though the finance team are financially literate, none of them possess the skills of a financial planner. So basically they're saying that us as financial management students, we should then be able to help these people with looking at various scenarios regarding financial planning. So answer the following questions that were raised. So you'll see as we go through these questions, I've already made some highlights on these papers, and that's to help you to get an idea of how to analyze a question when you see the paper in front of you. So what also I would really recommend you doing is to print the paper out. I prefer to do something like that because then I know I can circle and scribble and make notes on the physical paper while I'm working with it. Personally, I just battle to work purely digitally with a question paper, because I think your question paper we uploaded as a Word document, which is difficult to interact with in terms of making notes on it, etc. Okay, but obviously it's entirely up to you how you prefer to work. But if you printed the document out, you would be able to make these types of highlights and notes on it as you were working through it. So the question 1.1 is, and remember we are supposedly at a seminar for companies' staff, and they are posing their financial planning questions to us and asking us for assistance. The marketing assistant wants to travel to Japan in 5 years' time, and she will need 30,000 Rand at that time. She currently has got 15,000 Rand. So that's the case study, the sort of scenario setting. And the question is, calculate the interest rate that she must earn each year, obviously from now until she goes to Japan, in order to reach that 30,000 Rand target or goal of savings that she wants to reach when she starts out with 15,000 Rand today. So all of the time value of money formulas, whether you're using the formulas or you are using the financial calculator variables, you would need to identify these same things. So what I first did was I looked for important information. So in 5 years' time, I highlighted that. She will need 30,000, so that's important information, and she currently has 15,000. Then also what's important that we highlighted is what do they want us to calculate? They want to know, calculate the interest rate. So now I need to identify with each of these bits of information that I do have, which variable name does each of that information belong to? So she wants to travel to Japan in 5 years' time. So we are identifying from today until she needs the 30,000 Rand, that time period is going to be 5 years. So N equals 5. N equals 5 years. Okay, in other words, from today until the end of the time we're calculating, N is 5 years. She will need 30,000 Rand at the end of the 5 years. So that 30,000 is going to be the future value. In other words, the value she needs in the future. She currently has 15,000 Rand. So the 15,000 is the present value. So I've already identified whether I'm going to use my formula or my financial calculator. N equals 5. Future value equals 30,000, present value equals 15,000, and what we have to calculate, comp, C-O-M-P, calculate the value for R, or on your calculators, they also sometimes have it as, in the textbooks, I think they sometimes also put it as IYR, in other words, the interest rate. That's what we've got to calculate, is the interest rate. So if you were doing a financial calculator, if doing this on your financial calculator, you would just make sure that your memory is clear. So clear your memory first. If you've got the Sharp calculator, the easiest way to clear the memory is to go second function memory clear, which is the alpha button directly underneath it, the green one. And then you'll see it comes up on the screen, memory reset, with the 0 flashing. So if you press 0 and then 0 again, it clears all the memories in the calculator. I personally found that the easiest way to do it. Then on your calculator, you are going to type 5, press 5, and then press N. You're going to press 30,000, type in 30,000, and then press FV. You're going to type in 15,000 and press PV, and then you are going to press comp, C-O-M-P, and then the IY button. Sorry, there's one thing I forgot to tell you on the calculator again, important when we are entering in the calculator. Whenever you've got to enter a present value on the calculator, it has to be entered as with a minus, a negative figure. So that 15,000, which is a present value, must be entered as minus 15,000. And that's purely a financial calculator quirk. It just requires the present value to be entered as a negative. So it would be 5N, 30,000, FV, 15,000. And in order to make the 15,000 negative on your financial calculator, you would type in 15,000, the value, and then right at the bottom of the keyboard, you'll see the key with plus minus on it. You press that and you'll see the 15,000 then has a negative sign in front of it. And then you press the PV button. And then comp IY, and you should get an answer of 14 point, okay, I've got lots of decimals on my calculator, 14.8698, and you can round that to 2 decimals, so that would be 14.87%. You can also use either the present value or the future value formula. Enter all of those amounts, the 5 for the wherever you've got N in the formula, the 15 where you've got PV in the formula, and the 30,000 where you've got FV in the formula. And then using algebra, you're going to solve for R. And you would get the same answer. I just want to check in your textbooks. Right near the end of the chapter, in your textbooks, you have got, oh, where is that page start? I don't want that, I don't want that. Oh, in my textbook, it's page 47. It's 2.9, section 2.9 in the textbook, alternative applications of present and future value formulas. And in that section of the textbook, it shows you what your formula must look like if you want to solve for the PMT, if you were doing an annuity. Over the page, also PMT, example 2.15, 2.15, finding the interest rate when given present and future value. So that would apply to question 1.1. Section 2.9.3 in the textbook, example 2.15. That is exactly this question here that we're looking at, where we are then solving for R. Okay. So if you go to your textbooks, example 2.15. And then in the textbook, they also give the calculator method as well as using the formula method. So that section at the back of the book, alternative applications, is a really important section because those little questions often come up in papers. Okay, so you can see by what we've said here in the question that the important thing that you guys must be able to do in order to get the marks, and even if you can't get to the answer, if you write down on your answer sheet, N equals 5, FV equals 30, PV equals 15, you have already got most of the marks for this question, because that's what we are testing. We want to know that given a little scenario like this, can you identify what is the present value, what's the future value, what is it that we are calculating? Can you identify those types of, those elements of the question? Anybody got any questions on that one, on 1.1? That's a very easy example because it's a straightforward future value of a lump sum. So remember also the 15,000, you've got to always be able to recognize what is the pattern of cash flow in the question. So in this one, we had a lump sum of 15,000. It was invested at the beginning of 5 years, and the 15,000 was left in the investment for the full 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, we want to have saved up 30,000. So that is the future value of a lump sum pattern of cash flow that we did here. So that's the formula that we needed, future value of a lump sum. Then question 1.2. We've got one of the maintenance staff wishes to retire in 30 years' time. So again, present is now, and 30 years' time is in the future when they want to retire. They have estimated that she will require a monthly pension income of 6,000 Rand per month for 20 years after retirement. Okay, so we've got two scenarios here. We've got from today, We've got 30 years is going to pass. At the end of the 30 years will be the first day of her retirement. And then from that day, she will then be retired for 20 years. Oh, well, we're just using 20 years. She will require an income of 6,000 Rand per month during her retirement for 20 years. While she's working now, she will contribute to a retirement fund earning 9% interest per annum, compounded monthly. So we're going to ask ourselves, how many times a year is interest going to compound? And that answer is 12 times. So remember, when we've got multiple compounding periods in a year, we need to bring in the variable M into our formulas, and in this case M is going to be 12. Remember, M is always how many times per annum will interest compound. So they told us interest will compound monthly, so M equals 12. Interest will compound 12 times a year. And then, so during her 30 years saving up for retirement, she's going to be earning 9% interest. And then over her 20 years when she is retired, she will continue to earn 9% interest during that retirement period as well. So what they want us to solve, determine the monthly contribution that she is required to make to the retirement fund for the next 30 years. So what we are trying to work out is over those 20 years, we want to know that at the beginning of the 20 years, she has saved up enough money as a lump sum that will be able to generate 6,000 Rand a month income over 20 years for her. And during that 20 years, it will earn 9% interest. So again, let's identify the variables. So 6,000 Rand per month, as soon as we've got a repetitive monthly or annual amount, that is then an annuity, and we use the abbreviation PMT, payment. So that 6,000 Rand is then a PMT. She's going to be retired for 20 years, earning 9% interest per month. So N is going to be 20 times 12, which remember is, as soon as we've got multiple compounding, it's N times M. N is 20 years, M is 12 months, N times M. And her interest is going to be at the top here, 9 divided by 12, because again, remember, whenever we've got multiple compounding, it's R divided by M. R being the percentage interest and M being the number of times that interest compounds. So we want to calculate what is the value at the beginning of those 20 years that she needs to have invested at the beginning of the 20 years in order to generate this annuity over the 20 years of her retirement. So what we want to solve with this information is the present value of the annuity. Okay, so PMT equals 6,000 Rand. N equals 240, which is 20 times 12, and always write down all your workings. R is equal to 0.75%, which is 9% divided by 12. And it's going to be calculate PVA, the present value of an annuity. On your calculators, it's basically just comp present value. The calculator doesn't have a different present value for annuity. I've just put the A there because we know we're working with an annuity. So we should then get a value of 666,869.72. So there we've worked out that at the beginning of her retirement, that's how much she needs to have invested in order to generate that pension for herself. Now that we know how much she needs, we now know that over the 30 years from now until she retires, at the end of her 30 years service, this is the amount she needs to have saved up in her pension fund. So that 666,869.72 in the second part of our calculation is now going to be the future value of the annuity. So we will then say future value is equal to 666,869.72. N is going to be 30 years times 12. R is still 9 divided by 12. And now we are going to comp PMT. We are going to solve for PMT, which is what is the monthly contribution, the repetitive monthly amount that she is required to make to the retirement fund for the next 30 years in order to have saved up this value here, the 666,869, which we calculated over here. So this one was a little bit more tricky. We had to do two calculations. We first had to calculate how much money does she need to have invested at the beginning of her retirement so that we could then calculate how much money must she save up every month from now until the end of her working life so that she has got that exact amount saved up. So the two calculations are not difficult calculations. What gets tricky is just your thought process in working out that that's what you've got to do. But again, remember, you're going to get the marks as long as you write down on your answer page, PMT equals 6,000, R equals 9 over 12, N equals 20 times 12, solve for the present value. And the same thing with the second part. You're going to get the maximum number of marks if you say present value equals 666,869. Sorry, not present value. This is now the future value. Future value equals 666,869. N equals 360. R equals 0.75. Solve or comp PMT. So the most important thing is that you can identify what these variables are that we are trying to calculate. Question 1.3 was, it's the last one with calculations, so I'll quickly go through this one as well. The rest of the paper was mostly sort of theoretical discussion type questions. So let's have a look at question 1.3. The Assistant Financial Controller is using the following information to plan her retirement. She is currently 24 years old. She expects to retire when she's 68. From when she retires to when she passes away, her life expectancy, she'll be 93 years old. So you can see already from that, you should have gathered, we've got two time periods. One time period is from when she's 24 until when she's 68, current until she retires. And then the second time period will be from when she retires until when she passes away. So very similar to the previous question. While I'm working, I need to save up money. And then when I'm retired, I need money to live on. So her current meaning right now, while she's 24 years old, her annual expenditures are 30,000 Rand. The expected inflation rate until she retires, so from when she's 24 until when she's 68, is 3%. So in other words, our 30,000 will inflate by 3% each year over this time period. Expected return on her retirement investment is going to be 8%. She assumes that her consumption expenditures, these consumption expenditures here, the 30,000, will increase with the rate of inflation of 3% per annum until she retires. And then when she retires, she will have end of year expenditures equal to her consumption expenditure at age 68. So whatever this 30,000 has inflated to by the time she gets to 68, that amount will stay the same. Okay, her consumption at her retirement age of 68, that her annual expenditures will remain that amount with no further inflation from when she's 68 to when she's 93. So that just makes our lives easier for us. We only have to inflate that 30,000 from when she's 24 to when she's 68. Then required, calculate the minimum amount that she must accumulate by age 68 to fund her retirement. So very similar to the previous question. In other words, again, from her age 24 to age 68, how much money must she have saved up as a lump sum by the end of that time so that she has got enough to live on from the age of 68 to 93 if she spends that current annual expenditure every year from 68 to 93. So let's have a look at what we want to do. First of all, we want to work out what this annual amount is going to be that she's going to live on from 68 to 93. So we've got to work out the future value of this 30,000 when she's 68. So 30,000 is the present value. So we're going to have present value equals 30,000. Then N, which is going to be the time from now when she's 24 until she's 68. And if you count that out, you'll just have to take my word for it. That's 44 years. And we calculated that by saying 68 minus 24. So it's 44 years until from now until she retires. They've told us that inflation, so you can use I or the variable R, is going to be 3%. And interest is only compounding once per annum, so we don't need any other value for M. M for Mary is basically 1 at this point because interest is compounding once per annum. And then we are going to comp future value. I don't think I've got enough space to fit it in there. And that is going to get an answer of 110,143.57. So what we've calculated there is that when she is retired from the age of 68 to 93, her annual expenditures every year will be 110,143 Rand. Okay, so now we have to work out how much does she have to save up over how much does she have to have saved at the beginning of her retirement so that she has enough in her retirement savings to pay her 110,000 Rand 143 over her lifetime of when she's 68 to when she's 93. So what happens now is that this 110,143, that is going to be the annual amount that she wants to live on. So that is going to be PMT, which is the, what's the word I'm looking for? The repetitive annual amount that she needs. PMT is going to be 110. She needs that for, N is going to be 25 years, which is now from when she's 93. But the years of 68 to 93. So she's going to be retired for 25 years. So she needs an annual amount, a PMT of 110,000 every year for 25 years, which is the years she'll be retired. They told us that she will be getting 8%. Where was that? Here. Her return on her retirement investment will be 8%. So we want I equals 8 for this calculation. And then we can calculate the present value of that annuity. And that's going to give us 1175,757.96. So her retirement savings required at the start of her retirement is 1.175,757,000. That's how much she needs to save so that during her retirement, she has got 110,000 per annum to live on each year for those 25 years. So those are the calculations for those two questions. I just want to go and see, did somebody ask a question? Guys, if you want to ask me a question, you can always also just open the microphone. Hi, Mark. Yeah, you can specify if you're working with a financial calculator. Are you talking about because you get a slightly different answer if you use the formula to whether you use the financial calculator? There will be rounding differences. You won't get the identical Rand value if you're using the calculator as if you are using the formula, and that's absolutely fine. Nobody will lose any marks for that. That's totally expected. And we know that depending on the method you've used, the final total answer will be slightly different. So that's absolutely fine if you use the formula or the calculator. Is that what you wanted to, what you were talking about? And also, if you've rounded like 110, you've rounded the 110, 144. That just means on your calculator, you've got no decimal places. You should have at least 2 decimal places with workings like this. Don't work on your calculator with no decimal places. Okay, because you lose a lot of accuracy if your calculator is set to round only to whole numbers. So in the question, I don't think anywhere here in these questions they mentioned how many decimal places they want. But in financial management, we never round to whole numbers. We always use 2 or 3 decimal places unless they specify. I'm just quickly, I know we've got a little bit of time left. I'm just quickly going to show you, whoopsie, wrong place. Okay, so I've gone through the questions with you and showed you the workings and where we pulled the information out from our little case studies and how we identified which variables we were working with and which variable we were solving for. So I'm going to just show you in the actual memo itself, just because it's neater, typed neater than my scribblings on the paper. So, but it's exactly the same answers that we've looked at already. So in 1.1, we just had to solve for, calculate the interest rate that she had to earn each year in order to save up 30,000 at the end of the 5 years. So this is what it looked like. PV equals 15, FV equals 30, N equals 5 years, and I equals, and that was the comp I. Here they've got it, what it would look like if you use the formula. So again, the formula is future value equals present value times 1 plus R to the power of N, positive N, because it's future value. So then we substitute FV equals 30, PV equals 15, 1 plus R, I don't know what the value for R, or in this case we're using the variable I. That's what I've got to solve for, is that I to the power of N, and I know that N is 5. So also, if you just write that down, you can see there you've already got 4 of the marks just by writing down the problem. And then there's some extra marks for doing the correct algebra, I suppose it is, to solve for that value of I. So if you were using the formula, you'd have to use maths to solve for I, and you get 1.14.87, which is 14.87 on the calculator. They've got financial calculator. This is for an HB. Your prescribed calculator is the Sharp EL738F. Whoever wrote this memo used an is it HP? Yeah, the HB10B, which is also a very popular financial calculator. And they've just written out here in words what you would actually do. So enter minus, take note also, they've put the negative in front there. You have to, they should actually also here on this memo, they should also have made this, they should have put minus 15,000 in front there. So enter minus 15,000 and then press PV. Enter 30,000 and then press FV. Enter 5 and then press N. And then press, I think this is in the HB, you just press the YR button. On the Sharp, you've got to press comp IYR. And then the answer on your screen should show 14.87. So I assume, I believe all financial calculators are similar. I'm only familiar with the Sharp, and even that one I don't know super well. I only know it enough to do with these. I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't work with a financial calculator every day. But these, so you can see here again, writing down the financial calculator inputs using the formula, and then here they've just described the financial calculator inputs as well. I don't know why on this, here's another one using the tables. You could also have solved using the tables. That's a little bit complicated. Because you've got to know what to do. You've got to basically use interpolation to solve for, which I don't expect you students to be able to do. But that is also an option. Whoever wrote this memo just put that on as well, but I don't think any of the students would do that. I mean, you can do that method as well, but it's a little bit of a cumbersome method. Then our 1.2, again here, they've got the formula method. So this formula is the present value of an annuity formula, because as soon as we've got a PMT, a regular annual amount that gets paid over and over again at regular intervals, then we have got, and we are talking about an annuity, and we have to use the annuity formula as opposed to the lump sum formula. So this formula here was the future value of a lump sum formula. This formula here is the present value of an annuity formula. So again, over here on the right-hand side, those were the financial calculator inputs, and all you have to do to get all of the marks is just to write those inputs down like that. If you prefer to use the formula, write the formula down, and then wherever you've got the variable, you substitute the correct value in the right place in the formula. So we have to solve for the present value, so that's the unknown. PMT we know is 6,000. R we know is going to be 9 over 12. To the power of n we know is going to be 12 times 20. And then you fill in the rest of the formula, and then also using maths, you could work that out and get the same answer that you would get on the calculator. Here again, they've rounded down to whole numbers. That rounding is not that important as long as what I'm interested in when I'm marking is that you've identified all of these variables correctly. This is what I'm interested in, is that you've identified the correct value and you've matched it up with the correct variable. And that also where there's multiple compounding periods, you've remembered that n is then n times m, and r is r divided by m. And then for the second part, they've got the same thing. In the second part, we needed the future value of an annuity formula. So that's the future value of the annuity formula. You've got all these formulas in your textbook, so you can consult them and write them down. You have got them all. You've got an open book when you're doing this. And again, it was then a matter of identifying correctly where all of our Rand values belong. So now in this case, we knew what the future value was because we had worked out here that the amount she needed to save up was 666,869 at the end of her working life. So future value was the 666,870. PMT is what we are solving for. We wanted to know how much she needs to save each month. So the PMT was the unknown, and the R over M was 0.9 over 12, and the N times M, this is very tiny, that's 360, 30 times 12. And again, just using maths with the formula, we solve for PMT, and PMT equals 364.26, which is the same answer you're going to get if you compute that on the financial calculator. And then again for question 1.3, so in step 1 of question 1.3, we first had to calculate the future value of the lump sum, which was the future value of that 30,000 annual spend that she's got now. We wanted to know what it was going to be valued at the end of her working life. So we worked out the future value of 30,000 at an interest rate of 3% over 44 years is 110,000. And then step 2 was if that 110,000 is the present value of an annuity, again, what am I saying? No, the 110,000 is the value of the PMT. The 110 is then the annual amount that she requires. So the PMT is the 110, and we want to solve for the present value of that annuity. In other words, at the beginning of her retirement, how much does present value means at the beginning of her retirement, how much did she have to solve? N equals 25, I equals 8%, and solving for the present value. This is these memos are written for the markers of the assessments, and this was quite a complicated memo. The person had gone to a lot of detail in writing down all these various steps and different methods that the student could have used to arrive at the answer. So it does look complicated. So just remember this method that I showed you here is the simplest way to go about doing those workings. Okay, guys, I just see it has already gone 7 o'clock. I don't know if any of you guys have got another class now at 7, but I need to wrap up so that we don't go over time. The rest of the task 1, this paper that we were looking for, were all theory questions. I've gone through with you all of the calculations that were in semester 1's task 1. The theory questions were discuss in your own words the roles of the financial manager in an organization, and that was for 24 marks. And then for 6 marks, you had to explain 3 key decision areas that a financial manager has in achieving their financial objectives. So that was the other 30 marks. The calculations were for 70 marks, and the theory was for 30 marks. Guys, if you want to do a WhatsApp group, one of you must just create a WhatsApp group and send me the link, and then I'll post the link on the on your announcements in Learn. Okay. Because technically, or should I say legally, we're not allowed to add each other to groups because of the POPIA Act. The way that we have to do it is publish a link to join a WhatsApp group, and then everybody joins the link at their own choice. Okay, Mark, perfect. So if you volunteer to create the WhatsApp group, then just send it to me. You can send it to me on Learn, and that contact your lecturer, and then I'll pop the link up in announcements, and then anybody who wants to join, including those who aren't online now, they'll be able to join up with you. Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, so I hope this has helped you a little bit. I know these time value of money questions, there are so many different computations and variations that they can ask in questions. So my advice to you is honestly just to work through the textbook, all of the different time value of money calculations, particularly that last section in the textbook where they have got that section 2.9 alternative applications, because that seems to be where they like to go for the questions. But you've got to understand the basic formulas first before we can start getting fancy and solving for other parts of the formulas. But remember, while you're busy revising over this next week, just give me a shout if there's anything that you're stuck with or that you don't understand, and I'll do my best to help you. Okie dokie. Okay, guys, anybody else got any questions before we finish up? Anything anybody else wants to know? Pleasure, Shasta. Pleasure, Melanie. All good. Good, Christopher. Are you feeling a little bit better about the financial calculator, Christopher? I tried to incorporate a little bit of financial calculator work in this evening's class as well for your benefit as well, and the others, just to kind of help you with that a bit. The memo, unfortunately, can't be posted. We're not allowed to post memos. Sorry, Mark. Coming along slowly. Okay, that's great. And just remember, just ask if you get stuck with anything. Okay, guys, I'm going to close off.